We probably diverged from the chimpanzees, our nearest genetic neighbor, between 6 and 8 million years ago, depending upon the laboratory you're looking at. But what that means is this, which is extraordinary. And it has to do with biophilia, which is the idea that the outer environment and how you raise can influence and has historically influenced our behaviors and our preferences and whatnot. For 99.987% of the time, our big, fat, talented brains have been developing on the planet. We have lived in settings that are composed of natural elements. Most of our experience is not done in a glass steel structure. It's designed around a flat, arid, semi-watered savanna. That's where we grew up. From that insight, it occurs to me that if you wanted to design environments where this big fat brain is supposed to thrive, you're going to have to pay some attention to our evolutionary history, or you're just going to be throwing smoke and building another cube of some kind or another spherical shape, something that isn't brain friendly. For example, Richard Wrangham, he's a researcher, believes that we may have walked between 10 and 20 kilometers per day, 7 days a week for our entire evolutionary history. When we sit down at a desk and we don't walk 10 to 20 kilometers a day, it makes sense that the system would become derailed, and that if you could put an exercise component, insert it directly into the work experience of whatever kind, you probably would begin to optimize the system. And that, in fact, is what you find. You can find exercise actually improves cognition. It improves a particular gadget called executive function, which is the ability to get things done, which goes all the way down to the toilet if all you do is sit on your butt all day long, pooling blood around your ankles and buttocks. So, whatever design you want to come up with, you have to take into account the fact that we as a creature moved all the time. Okay? Here's another one.
Mm-hmm.
We have an absolute love affair with our own voices. By our own, I mean our own species. Our brain just locks on. Babies, you can see this in infants most clearly. When they hear a human voice, they value it more than any other input that's in their spectrum. And if it's their mother's voice, they value it even more. But the human voice, that we lock on it, we pay all kinds of attention to it. Except if you're in an office. Now, back in the Serengeti, hearing another voice means a potential ally. This is called the social brain hypothesis of Robin Dunbar, but it's a good one. Mm-hmm. We probably survived because we could create friendships and cooperate our behaviors and coordinate them in such fashion that we could live. And if you could hear a voice, even if you couldn't see somebody, that could be a reassuring cue. That's why a lot of us think that our brains just lock down when we hear a human voice. But if you're trying to get something done at work, a human voice can piss you off. And the reason why is that your brain is designed not to work with an Excel spreadsheet in competition with another human voice. It's designed to lock down on the human voice. And you spend a great deal of your time trying to bat it away. The worst of all, Gali and Seth Horowitz call this half-versations. The worst thing, the most distracting you can get, is when you can only hear half of a conversation. Like you might on a cell phone or somebody's on the phone. You can hear their responses, but you can't hear the other person's, and your brain immediately begins trying to imagine what those others might be. And even if you put headphones on, it's an artificial environment, and you know you're trying to blot things out. I can't think of more brain unfriendly spaces than a cubicle where you can't exercise all day, and all you do is bat away conversations that you'd really like to spend a lot of attention paying attention to.